Good evening, I think it is. We're just a wee bit past the afternoon, so good evening to one and all, both the staff and faculty and students of QIU, to staff of QI Group who are here, and anyone else who happened to have wandered by and dropped in. Apparently, I was invited to come by here to plant some trees this afternoon, or so I was told. So I said to them, I've been planting trees for 25 years. And most of my trees are sitting here in the audience right now. I'm not going to wait another 25 years to see this seedling grow up. That's your work. So essentially, that's what you are here to do, to plant trees for the next 25 years. As you see up there in the corner, we are 25 years old today. QIU is not a flash in a pan. We are a quarter of a century old. To a lot of people who are sitting here today, you may or may not have known, but when we began at the very beginning, that's 1998, that's a good 10 years, 1 decade before this university began. In 1998, when we began, we were a bunch of people with ideas, aspirations, and dreams, and nothing much else. We didn't have any bapa or godfather or anyone else, either in government, out of government, or by the side of government, ready to help us or stand by us. We had only ourselves. The reason we are here today is simply because of that we relied upon ourselves. We relied upon our abilities, and then if you were to break it down, I actually addressed this just a short while ago. There was a study done, I believe, by the Harvard University group with regards to what made people successful. Very interesting, because it wasn't IQ, which is what this university is here to provide. Build up and puff up and, add IQ to your CV. It also wasn't EQ, which means that if it wasn't intelligence, it also wasn't charisma, diplomacy, it wasn't your personality. So IQ out, EQ out, what was it that made these people successful? So you were obviously not the most intelligent person in the room at the time that they were handing out intelligence. You also were not the most charming or most personable person in the room. And yet you made it to the top of the ladder. There must be something else. And this is a fundamentally important factor that we need to share with our students, with the staff who are guiding our students, and the rest of you, from QIU, which are probably aware of this because I just recently discussed it. The thing that they are referring to, because it was an American college, they refer to it in an Americanism. They are saying it's called grit. Grit essentially refers to the sand, the dirt that you basically get under your fingernails, into your teeth, into your hair when you're working incredibly hard. Are you with me? Anyone still want to continue looking at your phone? So you guys totally with me. This phone thing has become fascinating. I can totally identify with that in Sri when she was referring to the fact. I always say, are you with me? Just to get your attention back, Phones have this ability to grab your attention. You never know who might be messaging you or might not be messaging you or wanting to message you, so you're checking to see what's happening. But either you are here or you're not here. And in life, when you're not here, you're not anywhere. I've always referred to this as being in the now. Yesterday, that's history. Tomorrow, that should remain a mystery. But today, that's the only thing you have. Hence, if you are not here, you're not anywhere. So, are you with me, guys? So coming back to this point of grit. Grit simply boils down to passion. It boils down to persistence. It boils down to perseverance. And perhaps, the best of all, patience. It means that you outlasted everybody else in reaching your goals. It means you believed in yourself long enough, hard enough, that you stayed the ground, you stayed the course, you just did not give in. You were blind, deaf and dumb to the rest of the world. That's essentially what grit means. So, if you're focused on the rest of the world, you will miss your own path. Are you with me? Apparently there were a bunch of frogs caught in the bottom of a well, or so I'm told. The story is not about the frogs, nor is it about the well. It's about the fact that the one single frog that actually made its way out of that well was deaf. And because he was deaf, he couldn't hear the rest of the frogs at the bottom of the well, our fellow well-wishers in life, who basically are there to deride us, demotivate us, take us off, distract us, all of this. So because he was deaf, he made it. The others are always saying, you can't do this. And that is what we heard when we began. Most of you don't know the story. It's not in the student, orientation program, which it should be. Mr. Nicholas is ashamed of it, but I am proud of it. Unlike Mr. Nicholas, who comes from a gleaming background, some of us came up the hard way. And I think it's very important for the students to know that we had no handouts. We didn't get any pull-ups. We didn't get any soft loans. We didn't get anything. But we stand here today simply because of that word, grit. Very important word. Something that Mr. Nicholas must put into next year's orientation. We were poor, we were broke, right? And basically, these are the streets that I used to cycle through. I'm Ipoh Mali. Ipoh boy. But I owe my existence today to the fact that I had some amazing teachers. They were not, in a sense, like I said, with the best IQ or EQ. They were not the most intelligent teachers. They were not the most charismatic, right, or most charming. Many of them, couldn't finish a sentence grammatically right, but they knew how to throw a feather duster. I mean, what do you call it? The chalk duster. They knew how to throw a duster with some amazing accuracy. If there was some world championship for duster throwing, they would be up there. But that's what made us who we are, because they cared. They cared. The point of Datin Sri's conversation just now with most of you who are still listening is that we should care. Care enough to make a difference in this world. Again, in our poor, humble background, which I'm very proud that we should actually state that, poor, humble, bankrupt background that we started from. Anyone can make it because we did. That's as simple as that. Anyone can make it. It says here in Latin, right? Forget the Latin words. In English, it simply means arise, awake, achieve. Arise. Because we spend our lives sleeping. Most of the time, We don't realize most of our life is already over. We are heading into retirement age and we haven't yet accomplished or come close to our potential. Instead of sitting there in some old folks' home or sitting at the back, of your backyard, looking at the grass grow and saying, I could have done better. Now's the time. There's only now. Both to our students as well as to the faculty members and to anyone else who is listening right now. Now is the time to make a difference. Now is the only time we have. She was pointing out just now because of an experience that the two of us had to go through the last couple of weeks. I'm here today because I had to cancel the rest of my programs because a family member was in ICU. Now, unfortunately, this is something real for almost all of us. Some of you can sit down here and be blind to it today because it hasn't happened yet. But this is in the offing, let's put it that way. We will always have people who are edging up there to the point that you will be in the same shoes at one point. And Nicholas understands this, Kauchin. You are at the mercy of these guys. Doctors, I mean. Because they stand there in their white coats and they believe they know all the answers. Only God knows now. They themselves may not, but God will know. The fact, though, is we stand there with folded arms and are at their total mercy. Money does not help. So what she meant to say, and a very important point there is, life is always just 2 minutes, barely 2 minutes from the abyss. Right? Sounds like somebody wrote a book like that, huh? We are all just about 2 minutes from the abyss. The minute we realize that, the minute we understand that, our lives change. That's the meaning of the first word, arise. Arise from your stupor, from your sleep. Awake to the potential, the possibilities that are within you. And once you acknowledge that, then achieve. And that's really what, this message right here in front of this is staring at you is all about. Something that needs to be reiterated to the students very, very often. You see, I've also stated many a time that our universities, sadly, are a legacy of the 19th century. There's nobody here, literally coming from the 19th century. No one, right? True? 19th century means you're 18-something. Anyone born here 18-something? No? Apart from the, ghost in the room, now Chap Gome is coming close. No one here is from the 18th century. But our universities are legacies from there, left to us by the colonies, right? So the universities are legacies from the 19th century, staffed by people from the 20th century. That's you. You are the people driving this machinery, this institution. You're coming from the 20th century, right? Except for those of you born in the 21st century, which should be the students. So here we are, in an institution designed in the 19th century, staffed by people from the 20th century, hoping to provide guidance and direction to these kids who are going to be in the 21st century. Can you imagine a greater disconnect than that? Brick and mortars is not going to make it. Although it is important for us in terms of a platform, in terms of our prestige, in terms of your parents, that's the kids I'm talking to, and to some of the staff, to give you a sense, a semblance of stability, some brick and mortar has to go up, and we are working on that. The good news is we have already acquired the land. Signed, sealed, and delivered already as we speak. However, and it looks amazingly like that over there. You see the painting on the wall? Pretty much the same. The land, I mean. I'm giving you some hints. So you see, the land looks exactly like that. One gunung in the background, one lake over there. But unfortunately, I'm not going to give you any more details than that, because the next question from half of you, where is it? See, the instant I were to make that announcement, the price of every adjoining lot in that area would shoot up in Ipoh. Plus half of you would go and invest there also. So hold on a bit. We will be fair in making this announcement as and when the timing is right. But it's already underway, and you're hearing it now from the horse's mouth. This is it. This is our land. You see, you're getting first shot. You're looking at it. It looks remarkably like that. I assure you. Right after we do the launch, you go and see for yourself, ma. All right? However, it's not the brick and mortars that's going to make us into a great university. I've always said this. It's not. I'm not taking away from the fact it needs to be completed in the fashion that we have rendered and envisioned. That we will do. But that's not what the kids need. The kids, our children, our future. Everyone has been quoting Mahatma Gandhi. Let me quote a student of Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, who's been a lifelong Gandhian, said in one of his more famous speeches, education is by far the strongest weapon by which we can reshape the world. Does that not deserve some, All the wars over the years, all the wars that have been fought over the centuries have not shaped the world as much as education has. And you know this for a fact. As I said earlier when we were referring to these iPhones, right? Everyone is needing to look at iPhone. It's their lifeline, it's their connection to the outside world. Some of them have this phobia, They don't mind losing anything. I lost my iPhone. My God, that's a meltdown. People can end up in ICU because they lost their handphone. Are you with me? Basically, if there's an accident happening on the highway, what will happen? Will people stop to help the people who are injured, the victims on the ground? No. Malaysians stop immediately, take out iPhone and start video. So can put on social media. Sadly, we have become this iPhone generation. Something you should address to the students, Dr. Celia. We need to do something different. We have to care. Care means, the problem with the iPhone, because we see so much of the world through it, much of the devastation, much of the anguish, some of the war scenes, everything coming through this screen in your hand, right? We are distancing ourselves from the reality. We are distancing ourselves. So hence, we had somebody come up and talk about the fact that, some 83% of the school is coming from B40 families, right? Is that right? Again, it's a statistic. It doesn't, because most of the people in this room have never seen a B40 family. They haven't gone in there. They haven't helped, put food on the table, help the education of a child, work with somebody, clean the damn place. No. You have to walk into a B40 room to see what it's like, how people live. You see, what universities do is provide knowledge. Education, by definition, in the Oxford Dictionary, talks about, handing over knowledge from one generation to another, in essence. As professors, doctors, and the like, academics here, your duty is to somehow provide this knowledge in a form by which it can be accepted. Because information, that's already out there. All of you have lost the battle with Mr. Google, or what I refer to very fondly as Swami Googalananda. See, Swami Googalananda beats you. Before you finish making a statement and writing it out on the whiteboard, they have already checked on Google. No, la, Prof, that's not 1972, it's actually 1973. You know? They can confirm and should right away tell you. Prof. Saleh is already looking at me. He has encountered this already. But that's just raw information. You have to translate that into knowledge, which means that alongside with the information, you're teaching them how this information can be theoretically implemented. But the next stage is what is critical. That takes knowledge, which is derived from information, into wisdom. And that comes together with experience, life experience. That's where the X factor comes in. That's where the word grit comes in. What takes knowledge into wisdom is grit. Understand that I can take sitting here or standing here looking back at all of you is 25 years of grit that took us here. And that's basically it in a nutshell, 25 years of grit. And I'm saying to you, there's no particular secret about this. It's a tough act to follow, but it's a necessary act to follow. And that's what we need to teach our kids, that they can, they must, they should. Very important that if they leave this university with an ounce of grit in them, and in grit you encompass the whole concept of compassion, kindness, caring. And if you were to put that into a package, we will have a wholly composite human being going out into the world, making a difference wherever they go. I'm not overly concerned as to the academic brilliance of our students. I'm happy if they achieve it. The scholarships that they get, the academic brilliance that they get. But if they walk away from this university as finer human beings, that they learned to be more humane. They may have started their journey as human beings, but they have left as members of humanity. Then we as a university have fulfilled our obligation to them. So, yes, the university will be underway, and we will have it this year. All right? I will be coming back to Ipoh, and probably this time I will plant a tree somewhere on our own land. And at the request of my good friend Nicholas, we will be planting a musang king. The only thing I want to leave you with today, I am so happy to be back here in Ipoh, and I hope to, after this pandemic which has been dragged out way too long, and we are still very conscious about it. We cannot ignore it. At the same time, it needs to become endemic. It simply needs to become endemic. And it's part of it is psychological in a sense. I just came back from Australia and New Zealand, where I spent a couple of months, and it was amazing. No one, I mean, absolutely no one is wearing a mask. Literally, you know that if someone is walking and wearing around and wearing a mask and coming in, they are a tourist. You see? So, Dr. Selaya, just to let you know, when you walk in with a mask like that, they'll be asking you which operating room, theater you're coming from. However, the fact is, if we don't treat it as endemic, and here is a very valid point, and I think one that we need to consider. If we do not start treating it as an endemic, it will remain a perpetual pandemic. And economically, it is not sustainable. No country out there has been, even China, which was a zero COVID area, has succumbed. Hong Kong, where I live, has succumbed. And it seems that we have to follow suit and recognize it. By all means, wear a mask wherever you feel there is a density of crowd, but we have to go back to work. We have to basically, the planet has to continue. Economics, we are already heading into arguably one of the biggest recessions of this particular century, which will match anything from the last century. It will be a long, drawn-out affair. Having said that, recessions actually, from a point of view of economics, is also the birthplace of some of the greatest, most powerful economic engines and corporations the world has ever seen. They all began during this period. It's a period of incubation. So if we treat it as such, this is where we are reborn, where we get re-empowered and renew who we are. If we remain terrified, we will remain frozen. And that's a choice we have to make. Are you with me? So, COVID will eventually be beaten simply because throughout history, this has happened numerous times. 1920 is a classic case in point, where the Spanish flu took 50 million lives. It took actually far more lives than World War I ever did. So this is interesting to note that we have to win this battle before it even starts. All battles are eventually won within us. And in terms of education, the battle is always within, because the journey is always within. May all the journeys that we undertake be successful, because we simply don't give in, nor do we give up, because of grit. Thank you.